What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. League of Legends has a ton of awesome history that often gets forgotten as the game continues on, and so I thought it'd be fun to take a look back at how League of Legends came to be as it is today. Let's get started. Our journey begins in 2006 when Brandon Beck and Mark Merrill, also known as Rise and Tryndamere, founded Riot Games together. A short while after, they partnered with Steve Feek and Steve Meskin, also known as Ginsu and Pendragon, to cement the start of the team. In September 2006, production officially began on League of Legends, inspired by Defense of the Ancients, which was a popular mod for Warcraft 3, with the idea that the mod was so innovative and fun that it could create its own genre worthy of a full engine and enhanced features. In 2007 and 2008, production continued until finally on October 7th, League of Legends Clash of Fates was announced to the public. This was the first mention that we saw of the game publicly at the time, and it was initially announced with Clash of Fates in the title. Fast forward to 2009, and on February 21st, the closed Friends and Family alpha test of League of Legends began. Around this time, we also saw the first trailer for the game released to the public. On April 10th, the game exited the alpha stage and closed beta began. This is where the game started to truly develop, as 8 days later we saw the release of the first new champions, Singed and Zilean, who were added into the closed beta. On May 9th, the first ever version of the Summoner's Rift Winter map became playable and was added to the custom game options. On October 10th, the store was added into the game. This was when we first saw Riot's free-to-play business model, and it eventually became a huge boon to the initial growth of the game when it competed with other pay-to-play titles of the same genre. Shortly after, on October 22nd, open beta began, and the game slowly transitioned into release on October 26th when the game dropped its Clash of Fates suffix and was released as League of Legends in North America and Europe with a free-to-play business model and 40 champions. Heading into 2010, on March 29th, Twisted Treeline left its beta stages and was released into the game with a normal matchmaking queue. This was the first new game mode that we saw and set the stage for Riot to develop other maps. On July 6th, the very first champion rework took place, which happened to Kayle and set the stage for the continued redesign of champions. And on July 13th, 2010, Season 1 officially began, and a solo ranked, 3v3 pre-made, and 5v5 pre-made ranked queues were added into the game, with the new draft mode being added and implemented into all ranked queues. The game used an ELO-based rating system to match players against each other and record ranks across the board. On the same day, the All Random mode was added to custom games, and a community formed around playing All Random All Mid on Summoner's Rift as a much more casual way to experience the game. Also on July 13th, the Journal of Justice began periodic publications. This web newspaper served as a way to showcase the lore and story behind League of Legends in a way that was built into the client to be easily accessible. On October 19th, the first Autumn or Harrowing Summoner's Rift map was added into the game, marking the second official Summoner's Rift map skin that was implemented. Now moving into the year 2011, on February 16th, Co-op vs AI was added into the game as a matchmaking queue and greatly improved the game's new player experience. Later on May 23rd, the Tribunal was added into the game, a system where players could discipline others who received multiple reports at the benefit of being rewarded with some IP and sweet justice. And on June 17th, the first ever World Championship was played in Sweden and was won by Fnatic over Against All Authority, who at the time had the roster of Xpeke top, Xuxe mid, Cyanide jungle, and Lamia and Melisande bottom. The tournament defined the current meta that we still see today in terms of the lane setups of top, mid, jungle, AD carry, and support. On September 26th, Dominion was added into the game. This marked the third map produced for League of Legends. It was initially met with a lot of hype and promise of fast-paced, exciting matches, but the balance and pacing of the game proved to be lackluster, and Dominion quickly lost its hype and eventually became all but forgotten on the competitive radar. In November of 2011, Riot announced that League of Legends had hit 11.5 million active monthly players across the world. This marked the first milestone of many of League's explosion into the gaming world, and the game became increasingly popular as the MOBA genre flourished. On November 15th, Season 2 officially began and launched with a major update involving new masteries and a complete overhaul to summoner spells. This was the first of many major updates that took place at the beginning of a season, and eventually would lead to the trend of massive changes taking place in every preseason. Heading into the year 2012, on January 17th, Colorblind mode was added into the game, an awesome feature that at the time many had thought was long overdue, and finally allowed most colorblind people to play the game effectively. As well, on the same day, the dodge stat was finally removed from the game. Dodge had been a big part of notable items such as Phantom Dancer and Ninja Tabi, but the stat was considered a bit too RNG based and unhealthy for the game. On May 1st, the official Spectator mode was added into the game as well. Before Spectator mode launched, the Spectate feature was located in a summoner spell called Observer that would clear the fog of war from the entire map, and you would form a custom game of 6 players on each team, which was only possible from the Riot-based game client, and you would have one observer on each team in the game who would use the summoner spell and be able to spectate the game that way by removing the fog of war. It was an interesting situation, as many times the people playing the observer would impact the game accidentally by picking a champion with a global passive or dying to something like a Karthus ultimate, and it was happily replaced by the Spectator mode. On May 23rd, Summoner's Rift received its first graphical update. It consisted mostly of minor tweaks, but at the time it was a very nice change and made the game look much better. A month later, on June 29th, Pulsefire Ezreal, the first ultimate skin ever, was released into the game. The skin had been hyped up with teasers and hints for about 4 months, and was unlike any skin the game had ever seen at the time, and showed what was really possible to add to a champion in just a skin. On July 7th, the 100th champion, Jace, was added into the game. League of Legends initially launched with 40 champions, but in Season 1 and especially in early Season 2, Riot put a ton of focus on producing new champions, and was putting out as many as 2 champions every month quite consistently, and eventually Jace was released as the milestone 100th champion in League of Legends. On September 12th, the Diamond tier was added into the ranked system. Previously, the highest tier possible had just been Platinum, but the player base had become large enough to where the highest ELO rating was a long ways above what it took to actually get Platinum, so the Diamond tier at 2200 ELO was added into the game. On October 12th, the Season 2 World Championship took place in the United States and was won by the Taipei Assassins in an upset victory over Azubu Frost. The roster of Stanley top, Toys mid, Lil Balls jungle, Bebe AD carry, and Mistake on support beat out the competition for the $1 million prize, which at the time was one of the biggest prize pool esports had ever seen. Later on October 25th, the Twisted Tree line received a full relaunch and update in an attempt to change the dynamics and game flow of the map. It was exciting at first, but would eventually prove to be fairly uncompetitive despite Riot's best attempts. On December 3rd, a huge preseason update hit the live servers with updates to the jungle, massive changes to items, and updates to masteries, runes, and summoner spells. Some of the more notable changes to items were the removal of Heart of Gold, the nerf to Boots of Speed, since at the time boots were a 100% starting buy on every role except for support, and the buff to Black Cleaver and Warmogs, which would cause a pretty chaotic preseason, with some of the most unbalanced game states League of Legends has ever seen. Heading into 2013, on February 1st, Season 3 officially started with an updated ranking system, getting rid of the ELO ratings and adding divisions, tiers, and promotional series, as well as the Challenger tier above Diamond, to allow the best of the best a better chance of distinguishing themselves on the ranked ladder. On February 7th, the first League Championship Series, or LCS, started in North America and Europe, marking the downfall of the open circuit of tournaments, but leading to a much more secure competitive scene for the professional players and organizations. Here's a fun one for you. On February 14th, 2013, Riot announced their official replay system coming soon and implemented it on the PBE. It was met with a lot of promise, but eventually fell through for a multitude of reasons, and to this day seems to be nowhere near hitting live servers. On March 1st, the official Mac open beta began for League of Legends. Previously, Mac users had to use a third-party software called iLol that was supported by Riot in order to be able to run the game properly on a Mac. The software was a little bit buggy, would break pretty much every patch, and would often take extra days to launch patches, and so the official client was long overdue as Mac users rejoiced. On March 28th, the first full relaunch of a champion happened to Karma and was added into the game. Karma had been one of the weakest champions in the entire game for over a year, but had a kit that was a little bit too unhealthy to buff. So a full relaunch changed her kit completely and set the stage for Riot to be able to completely change champions to be much better designed and easier to balance. On April 29th, Howling Abyss launched and ARAM became the fourth official game mode for League of Legends. By this time, the all-random, all-mid community was gigantic and was a reasonable part of the player base, to the point where Riot made an official game mode just due to feedback and community desire. And on that day, the map gained a matchmaking system equipped with rerolls and new items. In October of 2013, League of Legends hit 32 million active monthly players, and had established itself as the biggest and most popular MOBA game in the entire world. It exploded into popularity, and when Riot released the official numbers, it became a huge milestone for the community. On October 3rd, the Season 3 World Championship took place in the United States in the Staples Center, and was won by SK Telecom T1 against Royal Club, with the squad of Impact up top, Faker in mid, Bengi in jungle, Piglet on AD carry, and Pooh Mandu on support. The finals were watched by 32 million unique viewers across the world, shattering all esports viewing records, and showing the world that esports is the real deal, especially with a viewership that rivals and can exceed that of traditional sports. This record from the Season 3 World Championship still stands to this day as the most watched esports event in the history of professional gaming. On November 22nd, Riot released their first temporary game mode, One for All, on Summoner's Rift, sparking a series of temporary game modes that Riot would continue to experiment with. As well, on the same day of November 22nd, a huge preseason update hit the live servers with major changes to support, changes to vision limiting wards to 3 per player, making pink wards visible as well, adding trinkets into the game, new support items, the removal of Oracle's Elixir, a rework to the mastery system, and changes to the jungle with the addition of the new white camp, and as well overall changes to the flow and dynamics of the game. Heading into 2014 now, in January, Riot Games announced that League of Legends hit 67 million active monthly players, becoming the most played computer game in the entire world by a huge margin. They haven't released any statistics on the player base since, but the fact remains that League of Legends has exploded into popularity and still remains the most popular computer game in the entire world to this day. On January 14th, Season 4 officially started with the increase of the Challenger tier from 50 players to 200, and some other minor tweaks to the ranked system. On January 17th, the first official Challenger series began in North America and Europe, creating an official way for aspiring talent to feed into the coveted League Championship Series. On March 23rd, Team Builder officially launched as a new normal game queue mode. This was an awesome addition to the game to finally allow players to guarantee the roles that they wanted in normal games. On April 1st, the Ultra Rapid Fire featured game mode was added in for 2 weeks, and was met by huge praise from the community as an awesome, chaotic, and fun new take on League of Legends that was much more than most had expected from the featured game modes. On August 27th, Master Tier was added into the ranked system, removing LP clumping at Diamond 1 and creating a much better system for feeding into the Challenger ranked tier. On October 19th, the Season 4 World Championship took place in South Korea and was won by Samsung Galaxy White over Starhorn Royal Club, with a roster of Looper up top, Dandy in the jungle, Pawn at mid, Imp on AD carry, and Mata on support. On November 5th, the second and more recent Summoner's Rift full visual update entered open beta and was finally added into the game. On November 20th, a huge preseason patch hit live servers with changes to the Jungle, Dragon, and Baron, and the addition of the Rift Scuttler, and huge changes to items, most notably the Jungle items that affected the Smite Summoner spell, as well as a bunch of other minor tweaks and changes. Moving into 2015, on January 21st, Season 5 Ranked officially began, marking another ranked reset for the ladder. On June 22nd, a new heads-up display was added into the game, and after a few tweaks, resulted in a fairly sleek HUD that we now have in the game today. On October 31st, the Season 5 World Championship was held in Europe and was won by SK Telecom T1 over the Ku Tigers, with a squad of Marin up top, Faker and EasyHoon at mid, Bengi at jungle, Bang on AD carry, and Wolf on support. And on November 11th, 2015, another preseason patch hit the servers that brought massive updates to the AD carry role and champions, huge item updates, the addition of the Rift Herald, the removal of green wards, the rework of masteries, and changes to the game flow and dynamics. And that leaves us to where we are today, but there's also a lot of huge confirmed updates for 2016. Although it's not 2016 at the time of making this video, we know for sure that in 2016, a new client will be added into the game to replace the long outdated Adobe Air client that we have now. As well, a new champion select format and menu will be implemented into the game alongside Team Builder Ranked, which will allow you to queue as two of your favorite roles in order to ensure that everyone gets a role that they like in a ranked game. Dynamic queues will also be added to the ranked ladder, allowing you to queue with a full team of 5 on the individual ranked system. And lastly, the Hex Tech crafting system will launch, significantly improving the champion mastery system and giving players a bunch of random rewards for playing on their favorite champions. And that's it. So with all of that said, despite all of the criticism, there's no doubt that Riot Games has created a fantastic game that has caused millions to have fantastic experiences. Here's to the future, and thanks for watching.